Hi there, thank you for choosing the Epic preset system. In this video we will go through the new, improved system. The major update to the old system is that now you can start to edit with the specific subject. We got blue hour, fog, forest, night, overcast and sunrise sunset collections. Don't worry if your photograph doesn't fit these subjects, you can experiment with different sets. Find what is closest to your image and start from there. I have included 4 raw images in the Dropbox folder so you can use them to test out the system. The cool thing about the Epic system is that you don't have to go step by step, however I recommend following the steps if you are not familiar with the presets. I usually start editing by removing some of the unnecessary things in the skin. Let's use the spot removal tool. You can see those 2 poles in the horizon which don't add to the scenery, so let's get them off. Also, I think these houses on the left side might distract your eye slightly, so let's remove those as well. Alright, that's looking much better. The first step should be adjusting the white balance, exposure and applying a lens correction. Here I'll add some exposure 0.75. I'll leave the white balance as it is. So for this image we should use one of the blue hour presets and find one that suits the style you want to implement. Scroll through the presets and see the different looks. The presets are organized from subtle to more intense effects. For this image, I think I'll go with the Change It preset. The more you use the Epic system, the more you start to gravitate to a look that you enjoy most. Once you have selected a preset, don't worry if it doesn't look great straight away, this is where the system's power comes into play. The next step is to select a setting preset. As you scroll through the options, you can see how the presets can change the view drastically, but still use the same colors as in the first step. The setting presets are here to make the first preset work even better for your image. These affect the basic settings and tone curve settings. You can go darker, lighter or balanced, there is plenty of variation between these settings. Subtle darkness 4 for this image looks pretty nice. Now the third step is filter presets. There are 2 different kinds of filters in Lightroom and Camera Raw, graduated and radial filters. It's good to know this because if you select one graduated preset, it's impossible to apply another one. That's how presets are made. You can't add another one on top of each other. However, that's why I created these graduated filters to affect the top part of the frame and radial filters to affect the lower part of the frame and the central stage. So you can first choose a filter to affect the top part of the image. With these presets you can either apply it on 1/3 of the frame or 2/3. And you can either darken, brighten or add haze. I want to darken the sky and use a filter that applies it to 2/3 for this image. I'll use the darken sky 3 and with shortcut M you can edit the filter position and settings. There are also dual graduated filters which apply a balancing or unbalancing effect to the image. If you already chose one, you probably don't need to choose one from this set. It will override the first graduated filter. The next set of presets is radial filters. There are 2 collections to choose from. The first set affects the lower part of the frame and the other collection affects the middle part of the frame. I think the central radial works better for this image because I don't want to add too much light or detail to the foreground. So let's go to the central radial filters and choose brighten middle. 3 looks decent for the image. And for the image I want to change the position of the radial filter. Using shortcut Shift M we can edit the radial filter. It's sometimes easier to edit the filter by zooming out. I want it to affect the lower hazy part of the frame and make the filter smaller, like so. Okay, that's it for filters on this image. I'll go through the night filters in the night photograph we will edit later in this video. Overall colors is the following collection of presets. These apply different color grading and also edit the HSL sliders. This means that you can use one for the overall look and then go to the following collection and apply additional color grading. I'll go with the drop preset in this case. And then go to the color grading and select sleep, which adds yellows to the shadows and blue to the highlights. Next up is effects. These are great to fine-tune the overall look of your image. There are clarity, dehaze, contrast, texture, desaturation, haze and vignetting presets. I think the image looks excellent already, so I don't need to use these effect settings this time. And the last part of the editing is the final adjustments. These are for sharpening, noise reduction and adding grain. I usually like to add some grain in the end to give the photograph that movie type of look. The last bit of presets is this extra folder, which includes some fancy presets such as calibration control. These are fun to play with. Now those were all the presets, but that's not all. We still have the epic color profiles, which you can find from the profile browser. These do not affect the already applied presets, instead this is on another layer, which is excellent. We can select a color profile and then adjust the amount we want to use. Here I'll go with the soft light and amount of 75. And that's it, the basics on how to use the system. Remember that there is no right way to do these edits, but the way I just showed you is a great way to start learning the system. If you want to experiment more, you can always duplicate the image and go back to the starting presets and see how the color profile affects the photo. Here is the before and after. Alright, let's edit another image, this time something more colorful. This was an early morning view at the coast of Finland. Again, start the editing by adjusting exposure, white balance and applying a lens correction. Here I want to make the image slightly darker with exposure 0.34. I think the white balance seems fine, so I'll leave it as it is. For sunrise and sunset images we have another collection of presets. Many options to choose from which work for different types of sunrise and sunset images. I think I'll go with the knocked preset here. Now let's move to the setting presets. It looks pretty good already, but I'll go through if any preset makes it even better. I like the look of details too. I'll choose that one. Right, now to the filter portion of the edit. I think I'll go with the darkening sky, 1/3 this time. Okay, now let's move to the foreground filters. Here we have plenty of different options. We can add details, remove details, brighten the image, darken the foreground and so on. These filters work in thirds as well, so you can choose 1/3 or 2/3 of the image. For these images I'll use the lighten foreground too. I think I'll skip the overall colors and go straight to the color grading set. G for me works pretty well. Next up is effects. From this set I want to add a bit more vignetting, 2 looks good. And from the final adjustment preset I think it needs a slight sharpening, 2 seems good, and that's it. Alright, that looks good, and again you can experiment with the extra presets if you like to. I won't be using the color profile for this image since I already enjoy the way it looks. Here is the before and after. Now let's edit a foggy photograph. I captured this on a beautiful autumn morning near the central part of Finland. First I'll adjust the temperature and tint slightly, and then lower the exposure a tiny bit to 0.16. Let's explore the fog presets. Actually, quite a few look good. For now I'll use the lab preset. And then I'll go to the setting presets and add some contrast with contrast 3, that looks cool. Let's make the middle part brighter with the central radial filter. Brighten 1 looks decent. I'll leave the colors because I do like the one already used for this image. From the effects collection I'll add some clarity. Final adjustments for foggy images, usually the grain works well, so I'll use the grain one. Let's see if the extra folder gives out something different. Maybe with the calibration teal and orange 3, I like the effect of it. And for the final set, I'll take a look at the color profiles. And here I think I'll choose the cool profile with amount of 65. And that looks pretty cool indeed, dark and mysterious. Here is the before and after. Alright, as the last edit we will do a night photograph. This photograph was shot quite late at night as my last stop after a long evening of shooting the night sky. There are some lights on the horizon, so let's take those out with the spot removal tool, hit Q and paint over those lights. Again, let's go through the white balance settings and exposure. Also don't forget to apply a lens correction. For night images it's usually quite helpful. And now let's use the night preset collection. I think I'll go with cool night preset. Then let's move to the setting collection and choose maybe the details 1 preset. And for filters we should use night sky filters folder. Because the sky is a bit too bright for my taste, I want to darken it and boost the stars at the same time. As the image was shot upwards, we need to apply the filter with 2/3 to match the horizon line. Okay, so the stars darken 3 looks excellent for my taste. You can also find the night image radial filters in the same folder. And I'll go with the blue filter to match more of the sky. The foreground blue number 1 looks good. Now that we have more light in the foreground, I noticed that small leaf in the frame. I wouldn't say I like it, so let's remove that with the spot removal tool. Okay, I think it's starting to look good. Let's check out the overall colors. I'll choose the washing machine preset here and then apply a color grading. Sleep looks pretty nice. From the effects collection I'll boost the clarity and then some dehaze, texture and add some vignetting. For star photographs you can remove noise with the final adjustment presets. And then maybe do a slight sharpening as well. And let's check out the color profiles next. From here I think I'll use the mood to add the final punch to the image with low amount around 30. Here is the before and after. Okay, and that's it. Now you know how to use the Epic preset system. It's a simple step-by-step process with a lot of options and possibilities. I hope you enjoyed this quick tutorial. I would love to see what you come up with the Epic system. Please tag me on Instagram and use the hashtag EpicPreset. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.